Hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni, and this is my wonderful co-host, Danny. We are going to be concluding our Gates and Centers series by talking about the throat center, about manifestation, communication.
It's the largest center in the body graph. It's got the most activations, and so we have a lot to get through here. A lot of things going on with the throat center.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, liking, subscribing, helping us grow and develop as a channel, and let's get into it. So the throat center, this is the center for communication and manifestation within human design. And we're going to start off with gate 31, which is influence, and it has the voice of I lead. Gate 31 is part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with identity center gate 7.
All the gates in the throat, it's real important to recognize this is where circuitry finally realizes its meaning. This is where it goes from a fuel to the act, through the potential to the possibility, then to the actual thing, here in the throat center. 31, I lead. The reason it's logical comes off of the Army, gate 7, and it creates the channel of the alpha, and it's the nine-centered way of I lead, and I express that leadership in communion with the other. That's type of elected I lead instead of the authoritarian I lead. And its leadership goes towards whatever logically is going to build the civilization and make everything work right, and have something you can look at into the future to say, oh, this was good leadership or not. So it's very influential, the gate of influence. It wants to influence the other as it relates to leading something that then is shared. So
yeah, that collective logical leadership. It's democratically elected leadership. It is the individual who has that ability to lead when recognized and invited, because it is a projected channel. So it's a projected, collective, logical channel of leadership, democratically elected leadership.
Absolutely. It's also not an action channel, which sounds a little counterintuitive. It's not one of the manifesting channels, like I said, it's projected channel. And so it is about articulating and using the voice in what you say and speaking and gathering in that way, and it ends up in action, but itself is not necessarily the action gate. So it can be a little confusing, because people have that channel of the alpha. I remember one person I read for, oh, I knew I had the channel of the alpha, and she said something to her boyfriend, and what she was hearing is, I'm the alpha lone wolf dog, and I'm like, that's not what this is. It's an alpha only temporally, for a moment, for an hour, for maybe for quite a while, but
and like the chosen alpha, like when you think of like the alpha, the wolf of the pack, it's like that's a whole different level of like splenic instinct, animal instinct stuff happening. We're talking about chosen, recognized,
yeah,
invited, collective leadership.
that's a good way to put it, the chosen alpha. So yep, that's the alpha. And if you have this gate, you have that voice, and that voice comes out in the tenor of the words you choose when you speak.
Yeah, I have
There's a sense of direction, of moving towards something when you speak.
Yeah, because it connects to the identity center. So there's direction coming there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a friend who has this as like his only hanging gate on an undefined throat center. And he always ends up being oddly elected into these leadership positions, and like, oh, he's going to be the one who saves the day in like this undefined way that like ends up getting there. So it's always kind of funny.
Because his words and his language keep leaving the impression with everyone else that might be a good idea. It would just be the natural consequence of this gate. And that's over years of time, right? Because everything about that logical side is they got to be identified with it. They got to repeat. They got to stay at it. There's no motor here.
Just the repetition of patterns.
Yeah. Or
Super.
that's a big part of it anyways.
Next up, we have gate 8, which is holding together, and the gate of contribution with a voice that says, I know I can contribute. Gate 8 is part of individual knowing circuitry, and it links up with identity center gate 1.
Yeah, something to add on even to 31, to all the gates of the throat. The voice is clear, it's there. And then there's or not behind it. So I contribute or not. You never know. This one's individual. It's definitely or not. because of its individual that's in the pulse and it never knows what it is. But this contribution very much speaks to the unique way that comes off of gate 1, this channel of inspiration, this way of leading that is only in the now. And whereas gate 8 is truly an individual process, it acts quite a bit like a collective gate. Its expression is there to support and aid for a higher purpose and the other and itself along with it. The contribution can't be a contribution alone, is the thing. Whereas all the other individual gates can just be alone, waiting on it in its individual, unique way, different from everyone else. Different, but it has to share, basically. It has to contribute.
The idea of contribution, like if it was just individual, like in a vacuum, like what would you be contributing to? So it's
That's
kind of
right.
funny that it is individual circuitry, but it's individual circuitry of direction out the throat center, out into the world, into manifestation. So it's contributing into the world. So thus it makes it contribute into the world, into like the collective.
8 and 12 and even 33 speak so heavily to this nine-centered way of our eight's contribution. I mean, the old way, seven-centered way, had a contribution, and it was only so that itself could do better. Whereas because empowerment is the keynote of the individual circuitry, its contribution has to empower the other. So think about that. All the individual gates in the body graph, if they don't empower others along with their journey, as well as what it normally does, in its journey through its life, there's the melancholy comes out. Somewhere in there, it's got to help empower others as well. Contribute or not, that's what it says.
Yeah, and I know with channel 1 and 8, that 1 is like that individual creative expression, and then 8 is like the art dealer. So like gate 1 is like the artist, and gate 8 is like the art gallery dealer who's going to be like promoting the
Yep.
individual creativity of gate 1.
And the Penta 1 is the inspiration for the face of the company, and 8 is the PR person, the spokesperson of that face. That's the 8 is the leading, face, voice, and way of the corporation, for instance.
Continuing on to gate 33, which is retreat and the gate of privacy, with the voice of I remember or not. And gate 33 is part of collective abstract circuitry, linking up with identity gate 13.
I love this gate of privacy and retreat, and its voice that says, I remember. It's a collective voice. And the thing is, it remembers, its remembering is going to articulate exactly what gate 13 truly collected as the listener, as the gate that takes in now the collective story of humanity so that it all stays intact. If you're a bug, you really only genetically do you remember your collective history, right? It's sort of wired in and that's it. And the more involved you get in the animal forms, you'll remember a little bit more of your collective history, but it dead ends pretty quick. Humanity has the capacity to keep it all, and I remember becomes the vehicle, the mechanism, the accountant of all the experiences that the channel right below gate 13, this channel of discovery that says, I'm going to finally bring the whole thing to fruition in the body. 35 may be fun, that's cool, but it still had to go through the body. It's not necessarily mandatory the other way around. So when that finally happens, and that expression comes in through gate 46 to help empower direction. Remember, love and direction, all roads lead to the G center, if you want to think about it that way, in a lot of ways. But since we're in the throat, this comes up through the 13, and 33 becomes the expressiveness of that. I remember or not. It's fickle. It can pick what it remembers. Not so much in the manipulative way of the 26, that's there tribally for success of its material way. It's just as a process that is abstract. So you can't ask it to have a checklist that goes one way. That's the army on the other side. This is simply abstract, and it's got a heck of a job to do because it literally discerns the stuff it's gonna spit out. That's why privacy. The privacy part of it is its discernment. So a lot goes on here. And if you, by the way, if your kid has a gate 33 and no 13, or the other way around even, and he goes over to the friend's house, be prepared that he spills beans about everything that goes on in your house.
Yeah.
Because the gate 13 will come along, hook it up, and suddenly his stories of what he remembers is at his home, you know? Yeah, my mom and dad, they fight all the time and blah, 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 blah. And there's this weird guy, Uncle Johnny.
Oh my God.
Whatever, they'll share the dirty laundry. It's just, it's funny that way.
Yeah, just the wiring of it. Yeah, it's like gate 33 is about holding the memory of what's worth remembering, like which stories are worth remembering, and like keeping a chronicle of that or not.
And its memory is very profound and it's deep because it's in that abstract experiential way. Think about it, receiving part of its marching orders from the confusion through the realization into the ideas. Now that's an enduring process. I have that channel. It endures. It never ends. So it's very excited to do this, that process 33, or withhold it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then like final thought is like that idea of retreat in privacy, this idea that after 13 collects the stories, 33 is going to like retreat and kind of almost process the stories to then express them.
And in your life, it means you're collecting stories if you have a gate 33, and if they're difficult stories or hard or something in your life, that retreat is needed. And this brings a grace to that type of retreat. It's like it just makes sense. So it really, that retreat in privacy is a necessary health function. It's also a stop codon, by the way. Things end here. They dead end here, and here's one of the dead endings into the collective in this case.
The end of the story. Like it's like closing the
Yep,
chapter, closing the
close it
book on the
and
end of it.
start over again, by the way, and start over, right?
Oh yeah.
Experience is experientialness, but here you go.
You got to
Conclusion.
end one chapter to start a new one. Finally, we have our 3 gates that go from the identity center up to the throat. So gate 31, this influence, this leadership, democratic collective leadership. We have gate 8, individual contribution, knowing it can contribute or not. And finally, gate 33, retreat and privacy, this collective remembrance gate.
It's all peppered with this notion of contribution. I keep saying it as a theme, a thread through all of our episodes whenever I can. All circuitry, all the other circuitry serves the individual's circuitry within our own unique ways. I mean, in the collective, and when we get into pentas and other configurations, it serves differently. But just for our daily lives, our collective circuitries and even the tribal stuff technically serves the individual unique way. The contribution here is what's really the summation of these 3 bottom gates. They're metamorphic in their own way because they're translating the expression of identity as a function of our love for ourselves, wanting to move in a way that's just great. Let's move this great. Let's get this party started, you know. And that's what ultimately you put these 3 gates together, and that's what you get. That's what you get. You get the contribution of having kept track of what was, being able to have shared that in a 9-centered communion type way that allows it all to happen, and to have the gate of influence 31 help keep track of the safety of all that it marshals forward. The contributions shall marshal forward, and they shall be remembered, including what didn't work, obviously, and what built the civilization. And by the way, none of these are true action gates. The action gates are the manifestor gates in the 20 and gate 20.
Yeah,
Just
the ones that
only
come to a motor.
yeah, this is all from concepts I speak. I mean, even though the concepts are up top, but I mean, just, the concepts of influence from how it will, from what it will, from a certain way, from your cross, whatever it is, you'll speak this stuff. Let's speak it. Blah, blah, blah. The action is still not even here yet. Fully. It's not fully embodied like the 35, 12, 45, and 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those other gates you're referencing all have motors attached to them. So there's a literal motor that's going to like push it out into expression. Whereas these are identity center gates. So it's love and direction out the throat, but they're all projected channels. So they need to be recognized and invited. And then the other fun thing is that it's like past, present, and future. Gate
Nice.
8. Yeah. Gate 8 is that individual in the present moment now. And then you have gate 33, which is remembering the stories of the past. It's linked up with the solar plexus. So it's that over time, how we're going to remember the past. And then gate 31 is about collective moving into the future and patterns for future survival.
Right. Patterns for future logical communion, nine-centered, non-murderous survival. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I had to add that one in because the old seven-centered way killed everything. So
Glad we're moving away from that.
everything here is about our movement and our love of our movement and our love of ourselves and our movement and how it contributes to the other. And its full expression must empower the other in a highest good kind of way. That's what's going on here.
That's the cherry on top I was looking for.
Thank you, Moni.
Thank you.
I got goosebumps from that.
I think everyone did. So now we're going to move off to the side of the throat center to gate 16, which is enthusiasm and the gate of skills, with the voice of I experiment or not. Gate 16 is part of collective logical circuitry and it links up with splenic gate 48.
I have this gate, it's unconscious, and it just the second something is identified with, I'm immediately enthusiastic about it. I start feeling identified if it reaches my calling and it calls to me. This gate it wants to play. It wants to play I experiment, and it wants to share what it's playing I experiment with it. And once it gets you to see the picture of what it's experimenting with and that it's also playing with and that it can't help but to do over and over again and sort of stay at it, it leads to the logical expression of my experiments, and the experiment totally gave us something wicked cool that's in harmony with the details, that's in harmony with the opinions, that's in harmony with the joy down below and the solutions. Here is so much the expression of that identified harmony. That's why it's so enthusiastic. It's like, dude, score. What's a game, Chenga, when you're the second to last one to bring the block out, and you brought that out, and the whole system's got like 82 moving little parts you're seeing are all gonna fall, but they didn't for you. That's what 16 feels like when it's like, score, they're all there, look at it. Someone else gonna maybe knock it over, but not you. And it's just a really good, excitable, wants to share it feeling with everyone else about the logical thing that you have solutions for.
Yeah, it's like the successful expression of repeated skill development.
Wicked good, yes. The successful expression of repeated skilled development, big time. And that development is like a step-by-step focused, concentrated process. That would be its format. This
Yeah,
is an interesting point to point out. More we excited, more we talk about them just generally, but that the format of the 9 and the 52 speak through all of this stuff on the logical side of the collective. So 16 is focused and concentrated on that, and it wants to be. Yeah. It wants to bring everyone along. It wants to sing, hey, I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? And bring everyone along.
yeah, you can look up different celebrities if you look up celebrity charts and how many really talented like singers and actors and actresses have the 4816. Like Britney Spears has the
Yeah.
4816, and I mean she's brilliant. And so like developing and repetition of those skills in gate 48, and you're going to go over it and over it and over it with gate 48 to develop that depth of skills and knowledge. And then that 16 that's enthusiastically going to express those skills out into the collective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth mentioning. It's got to hang up if it's a gate 16 and a defined center, especially, and there's no gate 48 to connect to it. It gets the not self hang up of I need more depth
Mm-hmm.
when I've only realized its breadth of experimentation through the identification. How did you say it before? Do you remember? Strategic girl?
The successful expression of repeated skilled development.
I'm so jealous of that. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
That I
Right,
could
jot that
remember
one
what I
down.
said.
We'll jot that one down because that's about as good as it gets. It's
Thanks.
yeah, it's wicked good. What Moni's doing, what she just did, is what we do when we synthesize a chart, and that's what the experience and the repetition does to bring you to this place. So when we start teaching and reading for you, you'll see how cool that really is. That's a really quality one. That's like it belongs in a textbook. Yep.
Thanks.
Don't you think? Does it feel that way to you,
Yeah,
ego
I mean,
girl?
it feels great. It feels great coming up with clever ways to describe gates and keynotes and putting them all together. Like, yeah, I feel good.
Oh, world class. Store that one in your ego for the next couple of weeks and walk around with it, Moni.
I will. I wrote it down and everything. Now we're going to move on to gate 20, which is contemplation in the gate of now. And the voice is I am now or not. Gate 20 is part of individual circuitry, both integration and knowing, and it links up with sacral gate 34, splenic gate 57, and identity gate 10. It's a busy one.
Gate 20 is keeping track of so much stuff. The only time it has is now. Don't tell me about the future, dude. I'm keeping track of all this. It's like Mama Bear with 4 kids before they all got to run off to school at the exact same time, right? Don't ask me if the car has gas in it. I'm putting together lunch sandwiches, you know? Its nowness is gate 20's now is so contemplative that it speaks for the entire splenic integration circuitry. And its only individual version of it is this penetrating awareness that comes out. So that is one of the individual channels, but it's mostly there for the integration of it all. Gate 20 keeps us surviving awake as ourselves now, only when we're experienced enough to witness that I have contemplation as part of my way. You know, meditation and contemplation might even basically be synonyms. Is that a fair statement? Do you think, Moni? That, like,
I think they're a Venn diagram. I think you can contemplate something and you
meaning they
can.
overlap. Venn diagram means
There's an
use.
overlap, yeah.
Yep,
So there's like a
yep,
middle ground that you're talking about where like
yep.
contemplation, meditation relate, and then there's like different things where contemplation
Perfect,
might be more
perfect.
thinking or depending on the type of meditation if you're trying to like
So
not
I'll just
think.
speak to the overlap, the Venn diagram of it all. There's definitely a huge overlap to use the concept of what is meditation in when you're contemplating what is our genetic structure that makes us contemplate, but only in the now. In fact, it doesn't work any place but in the now. Meaning gate 20, if you have a gate 20 in your body graph and you can't fully get that sense of how now you can be, then this thing isn't doing what it's supposed to do. And bring yourself in for a reading so we can get you into your strategy and authority, frankly, because it misses it. It'll miss it, just like the spleen will miss a hit. What is this thing responsible for? I am now. It's responsible for giving an expression of the awakened being. I am my behavior now, and I love myself 10 to the 20, or the 20 to the 10, going that direction. And this is a design of literally being awake right now because, oh my God, I am me. Look at my behavior. It proves I'm here right now in this contemplative way. I do that in the morning when I look at my garden and I'm like, what am I going to do? Sometimes I'm just staring at it, caught in a reverie, totally now. And 10, 12 minutes will go by and then I'll finally start doing something. I'm in a new now. To the 34 is busy and without any awareness of its love of anything, just busy and potentially frustrated. And this is the power to survive as yourself, immediately. Awareness becoming deeds. And then 10, 20 to 57 is almost like an archetype of power now, like the 57 20, except that it's the archetype of my awareness says, I know I am witnessing the now clearly. It's that clarity of the now. If you have incredible clarity of the now while you're in the now, sometimes you see things that can't be seen, and intuition can take over, and people channel here. So an unconscious 3420, I would call one of the prime channels of channeling. If it's totally unconscious, because the generative truth that is innocently just responding to all the stuff coming in at it is speaking now.
Mm.
Awareness becomes now, and it's unconscious, so it's a little bit separate from the conscious polluting mind that until you get a handle on it is always getting in your way. So gate 20s right now is responsible to speak. I love the power I produce in the contemplative now, where I can become so aware, even if but for a moment, that I can see over there and places that people and things that others couldn't possibly notice. And then ultimately that'll come right back out through gate 8 as a contribution and everything else. It's there to serve, but it's first there to serve you, the individual that has this gate. And if you don't have the gate, the idea of it is still there to serve you, the individual listening right now. So it keeps us alive in the now, and it makes action become deed right now. or deed become action right now. Awareness suddenly shows up and it becomes a deed, and that deed is in action right now.
Now we're going to talk about gate 16 and 20 as they both go out of the left side of the throat. The main connection I see, the similarity, is they both link up with the spleen, with gate 16 linking up with gate 48 and gate 20 linking up with gate 57. But what else do you have to tell us about these two gates, Danny?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're two totally separate processes, but anytime you put two things together, you'll get a continuity, that you get to describe. And the continuity over here, besides just the spleen, is this whole concept of something we see a lot in humanity when things are working right. Enthusiasm in the now with all kinds of power, knowing it loves itself as its enthusiastic thing right now. And it's so contemplatively enthusiastic at this point in time, taking that energy to identify with things that'll marshal us into the future.
The successful expression of repeated skill development.
That right now feels so dang good. Let's do it again. And that's what happens here.
That's what we got about these two?
Yeah, I love this side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super
Not a lot of
fun.
emotion, nothing to think about here except that which feels good.
Yeah, right now. That which
Right
feels
now.
good right now.
Yeah, like a child.
Yeah, it's a fun side of the throat. Moving on to the solar plexus side that's connecting to the throat center, we have gate 35, which is progress and the gate of change, with the voice of I experience or not. Gate 35 is part of collective abstract circuitry, and it links up with solar plexus gate 36.
It's very connected to gate 56, which is all stimulation and stuff. We'll get to it when we get to it. But this wants to be stimulated. And the thing is, it starts with its desire way down below that is hungry for its experience, except 35 is the thing that brings it to a close. 35 is constantly progressing towards its expectation. And the awake 35 lives out that expectation like it is great. And if it doesn't happen, I'm still great. It's great. So now the expectation can be fun. I expect to have fun when I go to this movie. And if it was fun, that's great. And if it wasn't, that's fine too, whatever. So its wisdom comes in being the jack of all trades and understanding what is worth repeating and what isn't. It helps experience the enthusiasm of 16 on a one-by-one basis. So where 16 will stay at the same thing, 35 will try many different things. It is also a stop codon where the experiential process dead ends, and it is a gate of incredible action. So think about this. We have a mental process coming in, and this whole experiential emotional wave down below that goes to the root center, the collective experiential wave, all about feelings and desires and hunger for experiences. 35 says, oh no, it's just an experience we'll have, and I'll find out what it was, and it's being tortured by the rest of the whole thing that is going up and down an emotional wave. It says, hi, our mental concepts over here leads to through the emotional wave and action right away. On the other side, 62 with opinions and details to 16. We got to get some committees together. I see that kid's excited. It's going to be a little while before he gets the rest of us excited. It's going to take some time. And that's a logical process. But over here, the process is, oh, that was a smashing idea. Let's do it right away. And suddenly they're into the experience without any of that. So, let's clone everything. Nope, we're going to clone 10 things tomorrow. You know what I mean? Maybe we should wait a little bit and do some more, whatever. Science does that a lot. It goes into the experiential. We think it's logical, and it's not.
It's just to
At
have
all.
the experience, because to have the
It just
experience.
that's how did we get the Incredible Hulk? Come on now. So, right?
Yeah. And then, because you're talking about this whole experiential way. So we're talking about from root gate 41 to solar plexus gate 30, then up to solar plexus gate 36, then finally up and out to gate 35, out to the throat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This thing is the catcher of this incredible, emotionally charged, energized, motorized process. Again, you got something logical. Oh, that's hard. You have to repeat a lot until that really comes into place. Got something that might be totally illogical. Oh, that's fine. We got plenty of funding of energy for that. Go ahead, do it right away. What's it like if I turn the chainsaw on into this box of nails, you know?
Just to see what happens.
It's I'm gonna make a super nail chainsaw. It's just right.
Just to have the experience.
Just to have the experience of
And
nails in your thigh. That's what it does, man. Think about that. The whole requisition process. Look at it like our country that allocates money to things. Oh, it's hard. We got the hard button over here for everything that might need a lot of details, but someone comes up with something experiential. Oh, that was easy. They hit the easy button. All the power that's needed flows, and
huh,
we see it a lot. So I feel
yeah,
pretty good about this, though. But yeah,
yeah, it's this collective solar plexus emotional experience out the throat.
up and down in a way, expecting things. Don't let the 35 expectation haunt you in any kind of way. Laugh at it. You have to let it go. If you have a gate 35, learn to laugh at it the same way you've learned to rip off a band-aid. You just tear it's not there. It was there, but you ripped it off, and now it's not.
Next up, we have gate 12, which is standstill, and the gate of caution with the voice of, I know I can try, or not. Gate 12 is part of individual knowing circuitry, and it links up with solar plexus gate 22.
I would call this gate the warrior, the semi-warrior, totally, because gate 12 is sharp. It's got caution as its way, right? It's here to articulate, I know I can or not. It's not, I know I can experiment, or it's just, I can try if I feel like it. When I try, I know I can. So that's a pretty powerful thing. That's a pretty powerful cuts like a knife manifesting process that once again is attached to the emotional motor. And so if it knows it can in a unique individual moment, it will, and it actually can. So this is the just do it gate of all the gates. It's just that it's individual and it's unique. So I love the commercial Nike, but don't tell me what to do, right? Because it's unique and individual. And when I just go do it, it's because I know I can. Think about that. The individual circuitry is called the knowing circuitry, right? The knowing circuit. And its ultimate highest purpose is to empower others, empower the unique way in everybody. And so while this doesn't need to be shared, its impact can't help but to be shared sooner or later, very often in an intimate moment, almost like a one-on-one kind of moment, because that's where its emotional embrace will go first. So I know I can because someone else is empowering me by listening. That's what this emotional, unique individual wave is working with. And it wants passion. It does want romance. It wants connection. And very often with us, that's in pairs. So it's also the voice, the only social voice of the individual knowing circuitry, but it's social or antisocial. It can retreat just as good as gate 33. That caution, gate line 2 of this says purification with fire, right? Oops, one of them got H1N1, in come the flamethrowers and burn it all. And like that's rigorous withdrawal it will do in its protection of its privacy and in protection of itself. But that caution gives way, and it's wicked social because it knows it can. And how else will it finally get the empowerment into the world except through its socialistic mechanic, its social mechanic to be in the party and start talking and be there?
Yeah, that individual emotional wave out the throat and that caution from, I mean, the pulse of the individual wave, as well as the up and down of the emotional wave. So it's like, yeah, you should be cautious because you might act a fool if you're not in the right mood. So
I should
waiting.
be cautious because that which I think I know I can do when I feel like it and I'm in the mood seems to be coming from this incredible emotional process that is very expensive if it's incorrect for me. It's very expensive. And it's great if it's correct for me. Everyone loves the emotional wave on the high. I mean, we're all learning that now.
Yeah, it's like champagne.
Yep, it's champagne, dude. It's champagne that we can live with, unlike, drugs. It's not, it wouldn't be
No,
looked at like,
no,
yeah,
it's in the, like, as an undefined emotional being, I find that emotional energy from people with defined emotional waves, there's a viscosity to it. There's a heaviness and a lightness. So when the emotional wave is in a high place, it feels light and bubbly like champagne. It's very like, boop, 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 and it's
Absolutely.
really happy and you're at a party and you're all celebrating. Whereas when the emotional wave is in a low, it has this heaviness like molasses that you're just going to get sucked into and drown in.
I'm either in the mood or not. The
Mm-hmm.
gate 12 will absolutely express it. And let your gate 12s express that out there in the world. It doesn't know. You better ask it something because it doesn't know if it's in the mood type thing necessarily. It's just too unique and individual. You know, it'll tell you when it is. That's for sure.
We're going to move on to gate 45, which is gathering together in the gate of the gatherer with the voice of I have or not. Gate 45 is part of tribal ego circuitry, linking up with will gate 21.
The possessive voice of 45 is really something we have to marry up to its name because yes, people with gate 45 can seem a little bit possessive, and at times there's a certain entitlement here because if you possess, you're entitled to that. Essentially, it possesses the ear of the tribe, it possesses the love of the tribe, or it possesses nothing in its grandest, highest 30,000 foot view of it. But it's gathering, right? Gathering together all the beneficial like forces for the ultimate benefit of the tribe. We spoke about this before. I remember we were talking about it, Moni, and we were referring to how its best expression is as it's can. Oh yeah, because we did the things going through is as canvassing and as in teaching and showing the rest of the tribe what is our way, what's that successful way. Here's that way, and it is successful. It's verbose, it's got a vibrato, it's part of the channel of money and materialism. And that materialism in a nine-centered being is there to support the tribe. It's the expression of supportiveness in its best possible light. I mean, obviously, in the not self, it's mine. I have it, give it, no, and it's got plenty of ugly expression in today's world. We need to look out for that because it's powerful. It's a manifesting channel off of the ego. Yes, the emotional solar plex can explode, and that's dangerous in a manifesting way. But the ego has its own way. You know what I mean? The ego willpower, its foundation of its 21 is absolute control. And the most severest action was the right action in the face of the persistent and deliberate interference. So this will take on that character. And so it's very important they come in clean because we don't want an authoritarian showing up trying to be the old seven-centered tribal leader boss. We need that nine-centered one that, while still the capacity to be the king or the queen and technically the boss of it all, needs to have its humility and its humbleness intact.
Yeah, it's a graceful hierarchy. Like hierarchy in its proper place is a good thing. That's how you have a good, well-running company. That's how you have a well-run family. So it's
Life, society, all of it.
yeah,
Yep.
it's the kind, compassionate, generous king who is the leader of the tribe, right? Because 4521 is like the gate of the king or the queen. It's the monarch. It's the head
Yep.
of the tribe, and it's like that very generous. Like a
Yep.
good king is very generous, and that's very much built into the 45 because you're sharing the resources. Like, okay, the tribe has all of these resources and managing that with gate 21 and then distributing them out appropriately.
Russell Brand has this whole channel.
That makes sense.
Yep, it totally does. And he's also got 3420 as a generator. I think our president has this whole channel.
I think yes,
Yep,
he does.
yep, he
Yeah, he's
does.
got the
So
4521.
yeah, you can hear it. He possesses his thing and he hammers it out. And so he does act a little bit the authoritarian. Obviously, people notice that. It's here in this channel. It's just what happens.
Yeah, it's the voice of the king, which
Mhm.
varies, right? Like the difference between like the voice of the king with gate 45, 4521, the whole channel, compared to if you look at gate 31.
Right.
It's like if you're looking at 7 and 31, that's democratically elected leadership that's collective, compared to
And it's
this, which is
shared
tribal leadership.
yep. And that's
Precisely.
not shared. That's possessed. It
Mm-hmm.
is a possess, and it possesses the ego from the ego willpower that is really where the speaking is coming from, and the energy to do that. It's a powerful motor. So if this voice has something to say, the ego willpower will make darn sure it gets done. That's
It's
its capacity.
Yeah, it's speaking the will out to the throat and what one
Yes.
has the resources for. I have a friend who has the 4521. He's an ego manifester, and he started to pay attention to when he speaks and the oomph in his voice. Like when his will is actually speaking and he has the will and the energy for something, there's like a fortitude, there's a strength, there's like a masculine strength that
Yep.
expresses in him. Whereas when he doesn't have the will, or he's just feeling guilty, he's just got to say the thing, or he's trying to get himself to do something he doesn't want to do, it's like higher pitched and it's weak. It doesn't have the oomph of the will
There
behind
you
it.
go. Yes, yes. And that would absolutely be a way to describe what 45 is ultimately communicating. It is that willpower. And in the right being, it is the will to look out for the tribe. In the president's case, he says it's for the American tribe. And it's the well-being of the children. So much of this is all tribal circuitry is imbued with trust, loyalty, family, food for those who belong, the principles of who belongs. The law is developed in the tribal circuitry, for God's sakes.
Education, sharing of education. You
Yes,
want an
the cult.
educated tribe.
Yep, well-working food supplies, right? Yeah, let's get
Resources. I
that.
mean, everything with the tribal
All of it.
circuitry circles around the heart center and having those resources for the tribe.
And mysticism. So this will be the voice of a certain amount of what mystically could be going on because the mystical circuit runs right through the tribal circuitry.
And
It's
that would be the voice of the tribal circuitry. That's interesting.
absolutely,
I
absolutely
wouldn't have put
lots of so meaning the well-run 45 will also speak and absolutely preserve the spirit of the thing. And that whole thing that gives Richard the Lionhearted, the capacity to speak from his heart, the spirit of that, because that heart center also has a gate 25 of innocence looking at it and a warrior, and it's got everything. And it's got the workhorse, the mule that will drive the boulders up the hill as long as it takes,
with
you
gate
know, and
40.
yep, and it's got this way to speak it out and transmit all that to gather everything else together and ping the alertness of 44 that then, 45 gathers all the like forces together, but 44 is alertness, right?
And the
You know,
tribal memory
yes, alertness to bring a few together, basically. Coming to meet, that's what it is. It's like we got to meet up.
with gate 44.
Yep.
So cool, like understanding circuitry and how you can understand the human experience so much better. Like so many things you're like, okay, that's a thing, but why? And you're like, oh, human design, it explains it. I love it.
Moni, I've got a concept that's floating here about this 45. This 45 seems to really, and not just 45 by itself, tribal circuitry seems to be so much more closely knit within itself that it can just speak through one voice. In fact, that's probably why it speaks through one voice, because everything else is so closely knit within itself. You can't ping one of those channels without them all ringing. You know what I mean? They just can't. They all go into action, and then the king finds out right away, and suddenly he's got something. You know what I mean? Right? You can't. It's like a spider's web. You step on
Yeah.
any one of them, and they're all like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! We're marshaling up forces. What was that?" Right?
Yeah, well, and it's going to go hit the resources, and you're really aware when your resources are
Yeah.
messed with. And also, the nature of tribal circuitry is like it's hierarchical. Like you have a
Yep.
place within the tribe, but know your place. And if you know
Right.
your place, you'll always have a place within the tribe, and you'll be taken care of within the cohesive whole. You can't have more than one voice of a tribal leader if the nature of it is to be hierarchical, and then you have one leader. I mean, when you have
Right. Yeah,
like
you're
two
right.
brothers fighting at duking it out for who's going to be king,
Cain and
it,
Abel. Right. Yeah.
it gets really stupid really fast.
Yeah. That's an influence war of 31 gone awry. That's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the other circuitry quite carries that type of interrelated ness that I'm sort of speaking to here.
No,
Like
because
that. So
individual is like sharing its individual pulse in different ways. And there's
yeah,
room for variety because it's individual and it's all mutated and mutanty stuff. And then
yeah.
collective is sharing all of the things.
Sharing everything.
So
That's it.
once
It's all
so it needs to have a
right,
lot of voices
right,
in collective circuitry, whereas tribal, it makes sense. There's just one voice of the tribe
right,
because it's
right.
based around hierarchy and like you
So
said, the will.
45 is really it's the voice of so much. We shouldn't just look at it like the king and the queen, but that is the way to sort of see
It's an
it at
easy way
first.
to remember it.
By the way, if you have 45 and you find that, or your partner has 45 and there's, they seem to be entitled to certain stuff.
And they always speak with this voice of I have and what I don't have, or can you do that for me? And it can be really annoying if you don't know. You're like, why can't you like listen to me or talk about my stuff? Because it'll always like that voice will just go in to like them, their possessions, what they have, what they don't have. So have some
Yeah,
compassion there.
absolutely. Absolutely. And we would decondition that right out of that person so they would know what they have.
Perfect. Here, we're going to be looking at these 3 solar plexus, well, 2 solar plexus and will gates on the throat center. These are the 3 manifestor channels of the throat center. You have the individual with gate 12, you have the tribal with gate 45, and the collective with gate 35. So let's talk about these manifestor channels.
Well, yeah, there are only 3 manifesting channels. I mean, technically, an unconscious 3420 is in the middle, but these are the only 3 manifesting channels, and
Yeah.
they all come right off of a motor, which would be required to be a manifesting channel. Everything else has a lot more channels to it. This is the one with the least,
Mm-hmm.
and so that is their congruency. They come off of a motor. They're mostly an emotional process. And even the tribal stuff that isn't an emotional process will speak the emotions of the tribe. Don't think for a second the tribe is not emotional business in its totality,
Yeah,
right?
with the 3740. So
All over the place, man. There's a whole bunch of it. And so that's again, that's a lot that comes out of here manifesting the I know I can if I feel like it, the I have or not, and the whole capacity of 35 to say been there, done that over here becomes where will we become tribally, emotionally sensitive and supportively wise enough to become emotionally clear about the things we should do, progress, what we know we can do, empower the other and like it, and then knowing what we'll have. Hey, I've got 35 and 12 working pretty well. With that, we got a lot, so that would be that I would let 45 speak for me at that point, if that's what it was speaking for, which it could and it should. So ultimately, I think these manifesting gates are here to speak for this totality that is supposed to contribute and know the right progress and stop the crazy, not, end it. It's just these are stop codons over here, except for 45, and end it already, right? And 45 will basically know what to do with the resource of in the aftermath of what all that doing is. So there's a great deal of continuity over on this side. It's but the continuity again is levered heavily towards the emotional wave, the crash wave, the spike wave. So when that emotional center is not totally clear inside of you or someone else or in the group or generally speaking, it gets polluted. And when you add in ego authority as a manifester to get angry about that pollution and say, that's not what I want to have, we get a world tumultuously filled with the emotional wave that nobody understands what it is, and everyone's trying to avoid that confrontation or blaming the other for it, and then punishing them with an iron fist. So let's not do it that way. Let's do it the way I first mentioned.
well, learning to wait out that wave for like the 12 and the 35, like learning to wait out those ups and downs of those waves and to like not be impulsive. It's like impulsivity is what's just going to like knock out the 12 and the 35 because it's just going to act on that high wave or act on that low wave because they're upset instead of waiting it out for that clarity. And once there's clarity, it can be really beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And 45 can, I bequeath the emotional clarity to 45. If the 45 is clean and all those gates are there, you can speak for that 45. You can add that distinctiveness into the tribe and allow the tribe to have its spirit with its emotional clarity. So
And
these things, they go together.
yeah, because the 3740 would then go to the will center and then the
Yep.
will 21 to 45, where so the
Mm,
tribe, like the
mm.
45 tribal leader can speak in a sense for the tribal emotionality. So all of these
Right to
have
the
that.
dinner table,
Yeah,
right to the dinner table that nourishes that soul, that food and eating together in that way. Absolutely.
So we're going to continue on to the top of the throat center where it's receiving this energy from the ajna to then express out the throat. So we're going to start off with gate 62, which is preponderance of the small and the gate of details with the voice of I think or not. Gate 62 is part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with ajna gate 17.
This thinking is such a logical process, and it can only say it if it's got a handle on the details. And the thing is, 62 is constantly collecting details. Those details sit there as a metamorphic pool, a teeming little pool filled with tiny little detail minnows, just teeming away, waiting to be let loose into the wild seas, through what would happen with gate 16 and gate 17. Oh, they go right together like that. That's interesting. So gate 17 comes in with its basically the opinions of what doubt had pressured earlier. Doubt pressured a logical process. Sit down, think about it. The details becomes the metamorphic version of how I took that noise and that light and that picture inside my head and fleshed it out into words. Up here at the whole top of the throat center is this metamorphic process. That is the continuity up here more than anything. The three gates off the top are strictly there to handle conceptualizing an ajna, pressurized ajna business, which means nothing, and yet there's a mental toy box that is an awareness center jostling it through, measuring and comparing and juxtaposing this with that, this with that, this with that, coming up with its concepts. And that's a powerful process in us. And this metamorphosizes that mess into words easily, right? We talk easily. It's like blah, 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 blah. No shortage of words here on planet Earth amongst all the humans, So it does a good job. And it's natural for us.
Yeah, I always think of 62, like as you're saying, within context of the head center with gate 63 into the ajna gate 4 over to ajna gate 17 and onto gate 62, where that stream, it's like the scientific method. So as you said, the doubt of 63, right, wondering, doubting something, then gate 4 is that possibility. Maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. Then gate 17 is presenting the hypothesis with its opinions to answer the doubt. And then gate 62 is going to test out that hypothesis. So that's why I picked a little graphic of like a little scientist with a beaker.
Yeah, and it's gonna want to identify with a set of details that support that hypothesis. Because we have to identify, we've had a whole debate over the last 4 or 5 years with all the science, right? Follow the science, all that good stuff. Plenty of those hypotheses, I don't blame scientists for being identified with. They had to. But again, the higher self that must contribute for the highest good, one of the profound principles of all of the throat center as a total aggregate of all of its gates for its highest good, the contribution, identified with is an impersonal, shared, collective process. So what? Learn to let it go. So with 62 and 17, it's called the channel of acceptance. So, and part of that acceptance is when to let go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a high expression of the scientific method is to be detached from it. It's logical. It's cold. I'm
totally identified. It looks exciting. Oh, it totally didn't work. That's okay. Something else will work.
It was just the process of it. Yeah, where it's just like science is a process. It's not like trust the science because it's one thing. It's like the science is always changing because you're testing it and it's in a process. So that idea of like you should be detached from it because you just want to test it. And like, I think it's this, maybe let's test it out and see. And then we'll test it again to see if it's still, and can someone else, replicate that test. So then you could really honor the scientific method without just getting personally attached to something because, well, I thought it was this. Well, it's not. You tested it and it didn't work out. That's okay.
Identified with is healthy. Attached starts to lead it to the not self. The not self mind attaches to things. In fact, attachment would be one of the keynotes for the not self mind. It's attached to every last thing that doesn't matter, and a couple things that do accidentally, that's its shtick. So 62, preponderance, right? Preponderance of the small, this trying to put all the details in one spot to get enthusiastic about. And the thing is, if you have 62 in your body graph, you sort of know that, start to trust it. Start to trust it that if it was for you, the details you need showed up there. And don't beat people up with your details. It doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean you're right. And learn to accept opinionatedness doesn't help. That's you're too identified with at that moment,
Yeah.
and so a lot can come through this gate 62.
Yeah, it's like the expression of a hypothesis. This is what I tell my boyfriend because he has gate 17. He also has gate like 43 and 23. So it comes out as I know. So his gate 17 stuff would come out with the voice of the I know of like 23. And it just always felt weird. And then we started playing where he started saying, I hypothesize with gate
Right.
17. I hypothesize. I was like, oh, you hypothesize. It's like he sounded better. He sounded
Yeah,
like
because I think it's been hijacked, and when someone says, well, I think it's this way, it almost seems as if they're saying it is this way.
yeah, it could be fighty. Whereas like if you're like,
Yeah,
I hypothesize this, you're like, oh, he's sophisticated.
right.
And so I
And it's
feel like
less confrontational
yeah, and it just it's more accurate to again the
to
scientific
what's
method.
happening.
Yeah, and this 17 to 62, where you're like, it might be this, I think it might be this with that open-ended where it's like, oh, I hypothesize, like, oh, you sound fancy. So
Mm, mm. It's an incredible process that goes on here. It definitely is part of what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. All of this stuff is, by the way, but this for obvious reasons. This is the gate that gave us a lot of practical things to do with our disposable digit, practical things. We'll get to the less so practical on the
uh-huh.
other side.
Moving on to gate 23, which is splitting apart and the gate of assimilation. Gate 23 has the voice of I know or not. And gate 23 is part of individual knowing circuitry linking up with Ajna gate 43.
So this whole 2343, this channel of structuring, I mean, I love this. This is the gate I'm missing. I have a split definition, and if I had a gate 23, I would be a single definition. 23 is doing an incredible, again, metamorphic process. It's taking noise that's rattling around as some kind of rationale in the now that has pondered. Suddenly it's like I just pondered this, and as if that's somehow true, maybe. Well, 23 splits that noise apart into its component parts, like what you do with a prism in light, and then puts it all back together right now. And the thing is, it only works when the timing of this being is perfect, or else it won't work for that being. It'll be different. And so 23 is there to split apart the noise and turn it back into actual language and become the articulator for the unique individual process. And this is the prime articulator of that because it knows. And by the way, it's in opposition, so it shows up more than the other gates. Yep.
Yeah, when you're saying that gate 43 or channel 4323 kind of reminds me of that scene from A Beautiful Mind where it's like Russell Crowe and all like the math equations are like floating around his head, where it's like the knowing is the 43 and then being able to like split that apart and then assimilate it into communication and verbal expression is like the 23.
Right. There's not much else to really say about this because it works in the unique individual pulse, and that's something to understand about its magic. But it does take all that pressure from way above, and it simply turns something into the magical now,
Mm-hmm.
just like
Yeah,
gate 20.
yeah. I think it's interesting with gate 23. It's like they'll sometimes pronounce words incorrectly because it's like their 23 is like figuring out how to split it apart and put it back together. So that's the thing I noticed. And then also there's like a correlation with like stuttering or not having the words. So those are things that are
Totally.
kind of
Yeah,
interesting. I noticed that with you because you're lacking. I also have the
it
43
happens.
without the 23, but I noticed it because yours is defined. You have so much knowing up here. And
It's
then
a
it's like,
defined, yeah.
it's almost grasping for the
Oh, it's
23
it's
wanting to be
grasping,
able
and
to express
I'm
it.
drowning in it sometimes,
Oh, I
of it
know.
wanting to pour out at times.
I know. I
And
talk to you.
people tell me sometimes I'm speaking a little too quickly, and
Yeah.
sometimes I also hear that like they can't quite get what I'm saying, and I'm like, it's perfectly clear to me.
Well, it's like it's like it's quick because you have that 3420, so that is coming out, and then you have that separate 6447 with the 43 and no 23. So it's like the voice is coming out quickly, but it's like you don't have the 23 to connect that like up there projector knowing. So
And
yeah,
I always feel it, and there's always this sense of tension when I'm right in the middle of the thing, and only when I'm done explaining something, does it finally relax a little bit?
You
It's
finally
an
got it all out.
Yep, yep, yep. So this is here to spit out what is right now, and it's amazing at it, and it will make a lot of things move. Again, it's not a doing channel, it's an articulating gate channel. All these gates are on the top are absolutely there to articulate concepts. So all of what is manifestation in humanity is heavily laden with the mental concepts, and it's supposed to be that way.
Finally, we are on our last gate of the throat center with gate 56, which is the wanderer, and the gate of stimulation with the voice of I believe or not. Gate 56 is part of collective abstract circuitry linking up with Ajna gate 11.
This one is just stimulating. I mean, gate 56 is just, they want to be in the center of the thing. And the second there's a bright idea coming out of gate 11, which don't, gate 11's fear is that of darkness. The darkness, its ideas will just fall into the dark, that the light won't come in. So this whole process is very much dependent upon light and the sense of spirit fulfilled through basking in the glory and the light of the cool ideas that came from the darkness of the jungle of confusion, essentially, which is the process of all of this. And so by the time you get to 11, it is a certain spirit of my ideas are in the light. They're being shared. Very rewarding, very rewarding, because this is an experiential process. I mean, it's rewarding when your opinion got accepted by the rest of the crew, and that's how the job is going to now work. But you quickly get into the job of sharing that with everyone else, and now it's just about the job again. Over here, they get to carry that on. It's just rewarding. It's just great, and their idea gets start being worked with, and the only way that idea can get out is if there's a manifesting, articulating process that invokes stimulating the other. I got a story for you. Hey, dude, no, I totally got, dude, I got a story for you. Hold on. And they start telling it right there. That's stimulating because it's going to relate directly to whatever the other person was just saying. And suddenly it's like, oh, I need to listen to the end of the story so I'm being stimulated by what he's saying rather than being handed a great idea on how better to make the framing thing work, which was great. Saved a lot of time, ton of money, and made everything better. I mean, a lot better, but it just doesn't carry the same stimulated juice that this side will carry. And so this is here to get experiences rolling. This is here so that the mental process can be totally into and with and in communion with the rest of the experiential process, going all the way back down up through the format channel, which would be maturation, and then finally coming to discovery, right? Through the 29, the 46, so it can be told into the story and dead ended at the stop codon of 33 of I Remember. 56 is direct partners to 33, except you got to go all the way back around the circle to come back to it to see it there. They can go right to each other. I'm not saying they can't, but it's best to look at it the way I'm saying it, because we're going to stimulate a whole bunch of stuff and just make things. And finally, we're going to come to the conclusion and remember and spit out what was there and all of that.
Yeah, it's connected in with that solar plexus side of things, of experiences and stories. Like my dad has the 1156 and he's like Mr. Jokey storyteller guy, and everyone loves him and wants to bring him on vacation because he's going to keep everyone laughing and having a good time. Like,
it's just, and it's natural for them. It's what they're supposed to do. It's how the story continues, and it's one of humanity's very unique things. Like I said with the 33, we bring it all back around sooner or later. We bring all of it. What was that down Mozart's time? Bring it back, all manuscript. Guy wrote a play. Who was that? Could bring them back. Put it in the Library of Alexandria over here, and we're bringing it all back.
Yeah, I have gate 11 without the 56. And I find that my 11, my ideas, which they're just constantly flowing, it's like it's grasping to stimulate. It's grasping to be the funny one, to be the performer, the comedian. Like I have so much of that in my past where it's like, I don't have to, but it sure is fun, kind of like reaching for that stimulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it says this whole mental process is deeply imbued into the entire emotional process, experiential process, logical and individual process. We can't get rid of mind. When we talk about the not self mind, that's just really conditioning and this personality consciousness that we teach you to witness is there.
Just
It's there
having it in its
witnessing
proper
everything else.
place. Yeah, it's having it in its proper place. Like you don't want to get rid of
Yes,
your mind. Your mind is brilliant and it
it's
comes up with
brilliant.
all sorts of, it runs simulations and it has all these sorts of ideas and opinions and it's that toy box, but it's having mind in its proper place, which is not running your life, but having it as this like toy box that you can use to measure things and have
It's
some
part
fun
of the
with.
interface with the rest of the
Yeah.
world because it becomes our outer authority. This is the metamorphic process for the outer authority. That whole thing you've heard Ross say it a million times. My mind is fantastic for you, but it's got no business telling me what to do. You
Yeah.
know,
Your
I have
mind
a
is for
strategy
other
and
people.
yep, it's to give that outer authority that speaks to the other, and it's got to be stimulating. It's got to have a dramatic knowing component to it. It's got to show up with the goods. It needs the details.
Here we have our three gates that go from the Ajna to the throat center. We have gate 62 and gate 23 and gate 56. So we have two collective and an individual. We have logical collective, we have abstract solar plexus collective, and we got that individual knowing just popping through.
The Wanderer, I love that. Splitting apart, ponderance of the small. That's what
Hundreds
it
of
does.
the
It
small.
ponders great big things, but it's smallly, just like the focus in nine does. But this is what's required for our outer authority to be healthy and attached to the rest of us and all of our inner authorities so that we can speak out what the toy box is measuring all the time. It's measuring for our benefit. Our not self mind grabs a hold of that and thinks it's measuring for some kind of advantage somehow that is independent of the strategy and authority. That turns out to never be true. And so, this whole thing, as it wakes up, is there to metamorphically take this toy box and say, no, my child, come into manifestation as the measurer of things and the outer authority that totally knows to speak what I know, what's good, what's all the details, and how cool it all is. You know, and even the way I said that, you can tell it's leading towards the empowerment of civilization, the empowerment of the tribe, the empowerment of having it all, past, present, future. We want it all, and I got it, and I can explain it all. So the continuity here is quite obvious. They seem like format channels that are not at all. I get that, but I mean, they seem like because they have this special purpose.
It's just like the flip side of it almost. It's like the mental side of that
Yep,
kind of vibe
yep,
of
yep.
this. I think I know, I believe, like it's all these like mental toy box things. As we said, it's just like the ajna just runs simulations and measures things, and then here's its expression out the throat.
Yeah. What does I believe mean? It means nothing yet necessarily. You believe? Prove it. What does I think mean? Same thing. Prove it. What does I know mean? I don't know. Prove it. I'm glad we're in the quarter of civilization for every one of these gates because that's what we built temples and ways and mechanisms to prove it and experience what we proved and experience some stuff that later proves or disproves something else. And then we know it and then we contribute it. So, right now, enthusiastically trying to lead the way, remembering it all with the right support and the can do attitude that wants to get to completion.
Here we have a very, very busy page with all 11 throat center gates. I tried to get it all in here as much as I could with all the graphics. So what do you got for us, Danny?
Dude, this is what's going on. This is our building mechanism. This is the way we communicate to everybody. This is how we as humans get out in the world and we do so much. This is the expression of all the things that will end up showing our new nine-centered way that is cooperative yet beyond. It's cooperative into communion. This is supposed to be the expression of that, along with the will to have that possessory voice of 45. It's supposed to possess goodwill. Let it. It's not supposed to possess your sofa. That's yours. Don't let it. So, seeing the difference, like meaning I'm sleeping over tonight. No, I mean I'm staying for 2 weeks, type thing. Oops. Assimilation. I love assimilation. Splitting stuff apart, has no idea what it's doing. It's in a pulse. Sometimes it's got the right thing to say. Sometimes it doesn't, Holding together. I love contribution. The contribution is what my gate one is always looking for. It's one of the best days of my life when that contribution finally gets made and you start to realize what collective, shared, tribal, empowering business this throat center really is. It's all of these things. And each of these voices, when you add them all up, become all the ways in which we speak. Everything in this throat center, if you take all the keynotes, becomes the collective voice of everything we've ever written, reported on, sang in a tune, told your friend, spoke out loud, put in your diary. They all come from these voices. And so you put them all together, and I contemplate now the experiences I want to identify with because I remember it all worked. And if I can show you, it holds it all together, and we're so much better for it. And I know I can explain that because I just put it all together. So maybe it will be influential. Maybe it will lead us to a different spot. And I can see you're getting bored with me right now. So I'm going to make it wicked stimulating. And you got to listen to me because your dang life depends on it, right? Now that's progress, for which I start to lose my caution and become the social being that will empower and can, which ultimately gives back to the gatherer. That doesn't have to think anymore. It just knows it's got all of those throat resources that make us be the glory of what we are. God would speak through all of these voices too. To us, that's what we would hear, and it's worth thinking about in that way too. As you read the Bible, you're hearing in these voices. That's profoundly riddled throughout our entire society because it built the society. So let it be that way. And if you got an open throat, you become a pro on what to do with all of the keynotes that we just read off. When you have a defined throat, you become a pro at how your definition is defined there. And that's what you become. Either way, the throat is also the source of where we learn all things timing, because you can't take back what you just said. Communication and manifestation extraordinaire.
That's our throat center. It all up, I figure we can continue our theme where we give some advice to defined throats and to undefined throats.
Got an undefined throat, doesn't matter what gates you have, and even if it is completely open, there's a not knowing necessarily when to express or timing wise, but there's always that sense of not knowing should you express or not until you basically stop thinking about it and stop letting the not self mind torture you over that. That's when strategy and authority kicks in, and suddenly your right timing is always there. The open throat is here to be the expression and show the rest of us what that right timing looks like and how impactful it can be. And then if you do have themes in your throat, it lets you know literally those themes come to life finally. And instead of being dormant where they're there and you wish it would show up more, now it's there and you get to have that. And that's, Christmas in July.
It's very much like with the undefined throat. I have a completely undefined throat, so it's like no roads lead to Rome, but all of them do. And
You have no gates in your throat?
I have not a single gate in my throat. It's
how rare that is?
Incredibly.
What's the number?
So completely open throat is 2.5%.
Wow. That's not many people.
It's a rare one. So we can talk in any of the voices, but it's kind of interesting because we can tell like if people are being authentic or not. But like what advice for the completely open throat? Like it's or for the undefined throat overall, because the completely open is so rare.
If you're thinking about what you're about to say, you're caught up in the not self of your undefined throat. I mean, that's just for starters. You're suddenly thinking about what you're going to say. You're getting caught up in the throat that is worried about attracting attention, concerns itself with attracting attention. It wants to not attract the wrong attention, and it really thinks it wants to attract attention, period, like the right attention, stuff that feels good. And it can't help that. So my advice for it is recognize all things are timing according to your strategy and authority. And it's even a good idea for open throat people, especially at any point, to experiment with it and step out of the timing correctly. So it's uncomfortable, but spit something out. You'll see quickly that wasn't for you. And it will remind you that that's not what you're literally here to float through the talk field and the do field and recognize I am now doing and I am now talking at the point when literally the body has it to say. Mm-hmm. The toy box is that outer. This is a great spot to recognize how your outer authority works too. Wouldn't you say? I would.
Yeah, because we can end up speaking not self, or
Yeah.
we can speak the right thing when it's the right time. So it's almost like the undefined throat is very like projector vibes. Is like wait to be recognized and invited. Like don't speak first, let somebody else initiate the conversation, and then just kind of like go along with it, kind of thing.
Sometimes the open throat will just carry on and keep speaking out its opinion or its thing or whatever its theme is in the throat. Most people will have at least a theme, and they themselves get exhausted and wonder if they look like a fool, because this is where finally we show up, right? We show up with what we're saying and what we're doing. And so it, embarrassment can show up here for the open throat if they're saying too much or saying too little, or thinking they're saying too much or too little. That's a lot. What do you have to say about it? You got a completely open throat.
Completely open. Yeah, it's so weird because I feel like the completely open throat is even so different just from like a regular undefined throat where there's like something to hang on to. There's something that definition of like another person defining an undefined throat. At least there's like a filter for it to go through. There's like the completely undefined throat is like I never know what I'm gonna say. Things just shoot out of my mouth for better and for worse. I
Right.
often say the thing that needs to be said, but somebody else should have said it, and I don't want to say it, but then it shoots out of my mouth and it can
Right.
cause trouble because I'm a fifth
Right.
line. Not trying to look for the attention because that undefined throat feels like it's never going to get the attention. It's never going to get what it does have defined out, because that's ultimately like the sadness and bitterness of the projected channels is there's something really good here and I want to get it out into the world, but I can't get it out on my own. And so it's like chasing that attention to be able to be like, notice me, notice me, notice me, which can get
In case that
annoying.
makes you sound unappealing, don't sweat it. All the not self stuff is wicked unappealing. All of it. And you'll see as you start to wake up, and it's all over the world. And yeah, it might sound unflattering, the wanty, somewhat clingy, like trying to stay in the conversation thing or not, or something like all that. And then you're gonna go home and second guess if you thought you looked stupid and all that. It's not
Yeah.
for you. So ring it out, cry it out, whatever you got to do.
And learning to let yourself be quiet at times is really
Yeah,
peaceful. When I finally could just be like, I don't have to talk, it's very calm because the
it's
rest of the
actually,
time,
yeah. And by the way, your silence will bring out the right timing. Because Moni, I can tell you right now, when you remain silent, it puts me under pressure to talk a
haha,
little
you
bit.
deal with it.
Yeah, right, right. So open throat people, when you just sit there silently, suddenly it's like sooner or later, the people that are doing all the talking, they want you to say something.
Oh, see, that's a whole different take on that. Because usually it's
It's
like, just
true. I see
be,
it all the time.
yeah, usually it's just like, just be quiet and like they're going to ask you eventually. But I never thought it through
That
of
sounds
like,
like a weak position. Whereas the
yeah,
strength position is the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world. He doesn't need to speak. He can just sits there,
because there's just a
right?
quiet confidence, and then the other people are gonna be like, oh no, I have to talk, and then they're gonna keep talking until they're like, I'm sick of talking, you talk, and then they really want you to speak. That's a whole different angle on that, Danny.
Yeah, well, that's the way an open throat gets all of its, not all, but much of its invitation would come in that way. All kinds of various things would come in that way. It's just a natural mechanic in us. If we're all awake, we would know that. And we'd just be talking like, oh my God, we kept talking about Moni, what do you got? And we would immediately know, because our love of Moni would want Moni to make sure Moni was still in the Moniness of with all the rest of us. So that's what an awake, human design community would look like ultimately. You'll be able to just handle all that. Can you imagine the lack of issues in an actual awake human design community?
I mean, that would be amazing. It's already like if you could start working on it on yourself and then you work on it in like your relationship and then into your family, and like that ripple effect keeps going outward. So I definitely know it's like within a relationship, it's amazing to have human design and know each other's design and like, why did it get weird? And you can understand why. So if you just keep extrapolating that out, like the idea of being in a community of people who understand design and encourage the projectors to lay down and ask the generators sacral questions and just do these
Right.
really ultimately easy things, it becomes so fun and the energy just feels so clean.
Imagine urban planning being the one. I'm going to speak for myself. Me, the generator, who am I? Letting all the generators randomly do stuff. So the community will have its work that's getting done. There's XYZ things that need to get done, right? And randomly, all
Yeah.
of it. And then at the end of any given week, did we get through pretty much most of the stuff that needed to get got through?
Yeah.
Rather than worry that we have a checklist and
Yeah, it's what I see a bit of within like Burning Man and Burns and those kinds of events where we have a plan for what we're building, and it's especially the generators that are responding and doing the things. And as I've learned to like sit back and rest until like my projector magic specialist, it's time to go do my specific things. That's the closest I've seen it in to a large scale in like a temporary city that is a burn. And
right.
that's
Well, you
really
would see it
cool.
there, and that is a nice large scale place to see stuff like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's neat, and it makes me excited and optimistic for where we can continue into the future. So very cool.
It's a
Okay.
generated world, and it's an emotional world, and it needs to have its projectors guide us, and it needs to have its manifestors making clean impacts. And all of this is an expression and an I can do that comes out or not, that comes out of the throat. So this was the pinnacle of the centers as we end up this series of why do all roads lead to Rome? Now you know.
Perfect. Do we have advice for our defined throats?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
You're good.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Just get onto your strategy and authority. Learn your voice. Learn the gates that don't fall into a definition, but might also be on your throat. I have one channel going to my throat, but yet I have 1, 2, 3 throat gates. So look at them. Read the lines of them. Read the line of your definition into the throat. Absolutely, because these are expressions that come out of you regularly. Oh, and understood, you're not here to metamorphically transform your throat into and your conditioning and your way and your speech patterns into anything else or your timing, anything. You're here to just be what uniquely that life force is pouring out of you. Don't try to fit into being what you're not. You know what I mean? I have right now that's enthusiastic with caution in 12. So if I have to try and be stimulating, if I have to try and be possessive about something, I'm no good at that.
Yeah, it's not your voice. It's like
It's not
the
me.
undefined and especially the completely open throat that could modulate our voices, whereas the defined throat
Yep.
is like, it's defined, that's your voice. Don't try to force yourself to have another voice that's not you.
Yep. Quite literally right. Doesn't mean you can't experience them and have flavors of them. Have all the flavors you want. Make sure you got that home base down well. If you have a defined throat, it starts out with don't worry about it. It's defined. So speak, and do whatever all of that's going to do. Don't overdo it. Don't pretend you're a manifester. Don't turn into manifester conditioning because all defined throats turn into verbal gunslingers and pretend manifestors and they think they really are that. No good. Don't let that happen. Right? Ride yourself in for a reading and witness how you've got a line inside that gate, and that line is worth reading because when you add them all up, it's a real particular way that guess what? You got. And you don't got anything, and you don't got the other stuff. You got that. That's what you got. You can count on it, in other words.
Love who you are. Learn who you are and love who you are and learn to love who
Yeah.
you are.
Hurry, quickly, right now.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and subscribing. It really, really helps us. We're almost at 700 subscribers, so thanks for being part of that. And we will catch you next week for something really fun and exciting.
Much love, everybody. Till next time.